Sub podcast. This is our 50th episode, and we had to bring the big guns for this episode because we have our feared leader out, John Stargarian, as for this week. So as per usual, we're brought to you by Bet Online. Use code Club Sub, first deposit up to $1,000, match you 50% bonus. I'll be hosting this week. You find me at Lags_the Capper. As always, myself, Lags, Luke at SWR_betting. And then our two guests this week. Coming back to the podcast, Manpreet, MMA Lock of the Night. You can find him at MMA LOTN on Twitter. And making his podcast debut, got Magic.
Thank you for having me.
_MAM. Yeah, no problem. So I guess let's get right into it. So the first fight of the night, we got Christos Iagos and Sean Soriano. I'll start off here. I guess, to be honest, I like the Alvarez matchup a lot more from a betting perspective, to be honest. I thought Alvarez probably could have caught a submission either with Iagos entries or when he gassed later in the fight. But this one, to be honest, I think Iagos probably can stay pretty safe and get a decision here with his wrestling. But yeah, I think the line's pretty wide. My 210's a little crazy. I think if you were going to play Iagos, you'd play him by decision at +115, but not much there. I think it's pass for me. Magic, what do you think?
I don't think this guy is really UFC bound, Soriano. I know he already had a stint in the UFC, but he's not that good. And I think Iagos can get takedowns here, get top control, get top time. I mean, he should finish, honestly. Last Iagos fight against Minus, I get that the guy was big and maybe a welterweight or whatever, but that gave me cancer. It was horrible to watch. But Soriano is a guy that tends to get finished when he loses, and I think Iagos can grind him out for a late finish.
Okay, fair point. All right, Lock.
Yeah, my concern here is I'm kind of surprised that Magic thinks that he can get a late finish here. I don't think that Iagos' gas tank is that good, to be honest. Like, that's my main concern is, like, I think that Soriano could potentially be live late here to potentially knock him out, but I don't think that Soriano's UFC level, to be honest. Again, it is the second spot into the UFC. The first time around, it went 0-3, 2 fights on short notice, but all three of those fights pretty much getting grinded out by much better grapplers and much better wrestlers than what we're getting here with Iagos. But Iagos should win this fight, right? Am I trusting him at -210? Probably not. The cardio issue is a little bit too much for me to be laying that kind of chalk on a guy like Iagos. But he should comfortably win this fight. I think he, at least notches those first 2 rounds by grapple fucking Soriano. I think he wins a decision. Soriano obviously heavily invested in that Stanford MMA crew, holding pads for the guys, coaching these guys, and being in the corners and shit. But how is that going to translate to him fighting inside the cage? I don't think it's going to be much. The big red flag is obviously his fight against Bruce Poington, right? 4 fights ago, where he got tapped out in the second round. It seemed like he had an absolute cardio dump because that first round was high action, a high pace, and then in the second round he obviously goes out there and gets subbed. But he is a -520 favorite in that fight, and he absolutely shit the bed. But yeah, the hands of Soriano worry me a little bit the later this fight goes, but I do think that Iagos notches those first 2 rounds and ends up getting a decision here.
Luke?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you guys. I think kind of traditional Iagos lay and pray, but to Locke's point, dude's dropped, a lot of third rounds in the day too. He hasn't really went out there and had, I guess, what I would classify as like a complete performance, which always just makes me nervous, that gas tank consideration. But I guess to echo your points too on Soriano potentially not being UFC caliber, it's tough too because a lot of those fights I wasn't able to find in terms of like his sub losses too. And if you just obviously go back to his UFC run, he's getting ran on the ground, a couple good guys in there. So no shame to some extent, but, just running through the rap sheet, it doesn't overtly appear that, he's improved that part of his game. I'd assume Iagos is going to be proactively wrestling here. So I think the line's probably about accurate at about -200. I don't know if I would touch it, to be honest, like I said, just with some of the gas tank issues, potential lack of finishing. But I think if Iagos really wanted to pass his guard, take his back, be more aggressive in that capacity, I do think a finish is possible. I guess I just don't necessarily have a supreme degree of confidence that he's, going to go open up per se on the ground. So yeah, I think it's definitely a bit of flip type fight in comparison to fighting a guy in Joel Alvarez. Definitely a little bit more favorable for him here. He should get it done, but I think there are better spots on the card.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Luke, we'll stick with you with that.
Oh, Luke.
All right, C.
Hey.
What's up, C? What's up? C, any
Look at
thoughts
this
on
guy.
Iagos Soriano?
Pass.
Great
Oh,
time.
amazing breakdown.
All right, C, what do you got for Aguilar Lutz? You got anything?
Yeah, I played Lutz. Yeah, he's gonna bring it to Aguilar. I like how he leg kicks. Aguilar doesn't check leg kicks. I actually think Lutz is decent in general. Most of those Tuesday night contender guys don't have good pedigree, but I think Lutz has got a pretty solid game. That Blackledge dude that he fought, honestly, I think he's better than Aguilar, but here nor there. I like Lutz. Pick'em's cool. Goes to the distance is pretty solid too. So
We'll just go around this. So lock.
Yeah, I'm with you here too. I like Lutz. I think he's a solid spot here. Aguilar, I'm kind of surprised at his record, right? He's like 17-4, 17-3. Surprised that he had that type of record, especially coming into the UFC, considering how he fights. I mean, he just seems to fight in a straight line, tries to stalk his opponents, get his striking going. But I feel like we're going to get a lot more on the table from Lutz here than we are going to get with Aguilar. I think he's a much better striker, throws a little bit more variety. Has some high school wrestling in his back pocket if he wants it, but I am pretty impressed with Aguilar's takedown defense. He is able to keep the fight on the feet pretty well. The way that he was able to butcher Barzola was very impressive to me. But in terms of this mainly being a striking fight, which I think it's going to end up being, I think Lutz is going to come out on top. I think he has a better leg kicks, like he's saying, better combinations, and I think he's just going to put it on Aguilar from minute 1 to minute 15. Could there possibly be a knockout here? Could happen, right? We saw Tuhugov take out Aguilar a couple fights ago, and even on the Lutz side, I do feel like he fades late in fights, but he has enough gas tank to actually get him the full 15 minutes here. And again, I'm not the biggest believer that Aguilar is a huge threat. Again, still surprised that he has the record that he has, especially on the regional scene with his fighting style. But I'll still go with Lutz here, and I'll take him by decision.
Magic.
I think Lutz is the side pretty clearly. I think he's going to outwork him. I think there is the possibility this guy is a fucking tank at featherweight. He fought 2 big guys in Contender Series. Chase Gibson, people think he's a bum, but he's legit. And this other Blackledge guy, or Blackledge, or whatever his name is, he fought, he's a fucking welterweight. And he looked good. And Aguilar, he was decent when he came to the UFC, but his chin seems cracked. I don't know why. His last performance was horrible. If you are losing the stand-up against Charles Rosa, I mean, it's LFA time again. So I think he loses here. I think Lutz is the side.
Yeah, I'll be pretty short and brief. I agree with you there. I mean, the fact that he lost a stand-up bout with Charles Rosa in his last fight kind of seems kind of unplayable here. And I think Lutz is probably the side. But again, Dana White Contender Series guy making his debut. I'd like to see him have a first fight in the UFC first. Luke, any extra thoughts here?
So yeah, I guess slight contrarian, definitely not a confident take. I kind of just lean Aguilar. Obviously, the Rosa performance wasn't particularly encouraging. Dude did not come in the best of shape. But in general, I think even in his L's, I don't think he's looked terrible. I know he got blasted by Tuhugov, but he did take a round off of Dan Ige, got some top time, was able to actually threaten some subs on Ige. Barzola, I think, went 0 for 8 on takedowns. So could Lutz, win this on activity? Sure. But I do think if we kind of see more of an old school, Kevin Aguilar shows up in better shape, bites down on the mouthpiece a little bit more. We see a bit more aggressive components. I do think he can land the bigger shots. But yeah, definitely not a bullish take. I just ever so slightly lean him in. For me, I could only find a couple of those fights on Lutz just as Contender Series fights. So tape's a little bit limited there. He's making his debut. I'd like to see a little bit more from him outside of the 2 fights. But to your guys' point, that performance he had against Blackledge was impressive to me. So I don't hate the guy by any means, but it's kind of one of those show me spots. Come in and beat a tough guy in Kevin Aguilar, and we'll see. But I lean Aguilar.
Yeah, fair enough. Is Magic coming?
yeah, Magic South got scared. Oh, there you go.
I thought I could use Twitter at the same time, and turns out I couldn't.
All right,
I'm
Luke,
sorry.
we'll continue. No, you're good. All right, Luke, we'll continue with you with this dumpster fire of a fight that is Gina Mazzani and Priscilla Cachoeira. What do you got?
Yeah, originally, I'm not going to lie, I thought I might be taking the flyer on Cachoeira, but after doing a deeper dive, I think the path on the ground is so clear and evident for Mazzani. Cachoeira obviously didn't look great on bottom against Shev. You can say that's Shev. I get it. But what we have seen, it didn't look pretty. She did get dropped by Luana Carolina. Didn't look particularly great on bottom in the capacity that the fight was there. So I think it's a spot where Mazzani can definitely justify her price tag, but it's also a spot where I really don't want to have, a minus 200 ticket on Gina Mazzani. Because what I will say, if she does go life or death in this spot with Cachoeira, I do not think Gina Mazzani is minus 200 in that scenario. And Mazzani has came out and just gotten sparked and rolled quite a few times fast, definitely by better girls. I concede that. But even in both those fights, against Avila and Chason, I don't think there was a ton of technical acumen that went into those finishes. I mean, she largely pretty much just got bum rushed, and that's what Cachoeira is going to do. So,
Did we lose him?
I thought he was pondering for a second there.
I think we lost.
He froze.
Oh man. Oh jeez.
If I gun to my head,
there he is.
Oh man. Oh wow.
Am I good?
Okay, Luke, you back?
You're good.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Yeah.
Repeat that last part a little bit.
Just saying, I might end up on under 2.5 at plus 200.
Okay. Gotcha. Magic.
I think the under is horrible. Someone is going to die. Mazzani has a huge grappling edge, and Cachoeira, if they strike, Cachoeira is going to kill her. Like, Mazzani has no striking at all, no defense. He stops punches with the face. I mean, I think the under is good.
See?
Yeah, I agree. I think the under is a pretty good spot here. Normally don't really like betting the under in WMMA, but it's definitely a good spot. Asney sub, not bad. Cachoeira knockout. So definitely see both live either way. Mazzani should be the side if she's intelligent, but who the fuck knows? Run it on the under.
Lock?
Yeah, when I was skimming the card initially, like before getting into the tape and stuff, I felt scared for myself, considering I felt Mazzani was the safest spot on the card. And then I started to run the tape, and I'm like, oh, no, it's definitely not. Like, she gets hit way too much. She doesn't have the greatest striking defense. And say what you want about Molly McCann, I feel like she has better boxing techniques than Gina Mazzani, which is why she was able to stay away from the big shots of Priscilla. But seeing the way that Rachel was able to hit fucking Gina as easily as she did, it just gives me bad vibes in terms of if Priscilla actually hits her and how that will look. So I do think that Mazzani does end up getting the takedowns. I do think she ends up riding her for the majority of this fight. I do think she wins by decision. I think Priscilla is kind of durable. I don't think we're going to get a Valentina Shevchenko type shellacking that Priscilla got in her UFC debut. And the one concern also is with backing Mazzani here. I don't think we have enough sufficient tape on Priscilla off of her back. Like, I'm not even looking at the Shevchenko fight. We did get a little bit of the ground game in that Carolina fight, but it just wasn't enough to me completely sold on a girl like Gina Mazzani here. Like, I still think she has I don't want to say sketchy gas tank, because like, if you guys remember going to that third round against Ostovich, she's like slunched over. James Cross has to like pick her up and like, look at me, fucking look at me, right? Like, there still are those types of concerns. And Cachoeira, I don't think she has a great cardio either, but she is what her nickname says, right? She is the fucking zombie girl. She moves forward. She doesn't throw with the greatest technique. She throws with a ton of power. And if Gina Mazzani gets cracked, I wouldn't be surprised if she fucking just shells up and just goes into like just shells the fuck up and just lets her get teed off on, right? So I'm not betting Mazzani here. I do think Mazzani is the side. I think Mazzani's decision is probably a solid way to go. But I will go with Mazzani. Am I putting my money on it? Probably not.
I'll keep this short. I agree with you. Mazzani's the side here. I think that's where likely needs that early round one knockout to probably find the finisher. And that's why I think I agree with the under 2.5 gun to my head, because if Mazzani's smart here, she's going to come out also from the get-go and potentially get a submission finish, and then Cachoeira on the other side, heavy hands, could find and finish herself. But yeah, definitely dumps by her. And then we move on to, I think I would say, one of the people's main events on this card. We got Andrea Lee and Shevchenko, Antonina Shevchenko. And I think this line's pretty crazy. It opened pretty crazy, to be honest, at plus 150. So I got a unit and a half at on Lee at plus 152. I think the striking is pretty close and competitive. I would lean Lee on the output if it's worth to go 15 minutes, but I think the grappling is the huge edge here. I mean, she attempts nearly 4 takedowns per 15 minutes, gets nearly 2 takedowns, and I think honestly, if she gets 1 takedown per round, it's probably a round. And I think there's a larger chance that Lee looks like a hindsight favorite than this looks evens, to be honest. I think that if Lee were to win those fights against Calderwood and Murphy, that she's a bare minimum minus 150 here. So I think this line's pretty crazy. I wouldn't be shocked if this line gets to minus 130, minus 140 by fight time. Yeah, I think Lee wins the decision here. Luke?
Yeah, I'm on Lee as well. Not a super bullish take. It's more so just I think that she can be competitive in this spot. If it is a 15-minute range kickboxing match, I do think Shev is a tad faster, maybe a little bit crisper, a little bit better in the clinch. But Lee comes forward. She spams volume. Her metrics are good. Her optics are decent. And I think she does have a pretty clear path on the ground. To your point, Legs, I think if she gets the nod again against both Calderwood and Murphy, as I think she should have, I scored both those fights for her. Even same result against Roxy. Let's say she takes an L. I do think we see a little bit difference in the line, and we might even see Lee be a favorite. So yeah, I jumped in at a decent plus number. Like I said, no supreme confidence, but I do think she has the ability to win the optics and has a wrestling path in the fight offensively. So to get plus money in that scenario, I like it.
Magic?
I have nothing here. I get that people were jumping only plus 160. Like, that makes sense, but I think it's a pretty close fight. If she grapples heavy from the go, she may look like minus 200 or so, but I think Shevchenko wins the striking pretty handily too. And I think that people look at Lee metrics and yeah, he throws a lot of volume, but doesn't really hit hard. And she's one of these girls that just throws drills, you know, the drills she does in the gym, she goes out there and throws them once and again and again and again. I don't really rate her. And she may get a sub here out of, I don't know, some stupid situation or on top, but I'm tired of losing money only by submission, so fuck this fight.
See?
Yeah, I took Lee for 2.75 units at like plus 148. I think she's got a significant grappling edge if she chooses it, even on the feet. I actually kind of think Lee's got better striking for MMA. Shev kind of needs that outside game, and I don't really think Lee's going to give it to her. She moves her head off the center line pretty well. Shev's probably got that advantage in the clinch. I agree with that. But I think Lee returns in double. So, you know, I think she's just going to set the pace of the fight. Yeah, I mean, I just don't see too much of a reason for Lee to be dog. I thought she's about like 55 to 60%. At the very worst case scenario, you know, even if it is just a straight kickboxing match, I think she stays competitive here.
Lock?
Yeah, I'm on Magic side here. I'm gonna go slightly on Shevchenko. No real bet either. I'm sure none of us are super bullish on this matchup. But if you guys did get plus 150, plus 140, or higher on Lee, I think that's a good value spot. But the line is more accurate now, in my opinion. Even if it was a straight pick'em, I think that's more accurate. Obviously, there is the grappling advantage for Lee, but not to mention she seemed to struggle a little bit too off of her back in case Shevchenko decides to go that route herself. Right? She is showing some improvements there, but obviously she's not the same fighter that she is off of her back as she is on top. So that is a bit of a concern here. But I do think that Shevchenko is slightly better in the striking realm as well. I think that she'll probably be able to land the more significant shots, the more impactful shots. The volume probably may not be on her side, but I do think that we'll get the damage from the Shevchenko side, which should probably end up swaying the judges. again, it's tough to be truly confident on either side. I'm seeing nothing but majority love for Andrew Lee, and that could potentially be because of the line, and we're obviously see it impacted with the line movement. And I would absolutely agree with you guys. I think by fight time, we might actually see Lee around -130, -140. At Shevchenko at dog odds, I'd be a little bit intrigued, or my interest would be piqued. But again, this fight's just too fucking close. Again, it might look like -300 Lee if she does get her grappling going right off the bat. But I'm going to give Shevchenko the benefit of the doubt here. She is seemingly working on her grappling. She is seemingly trying to get better in that aspect. But again, it's complete night and day difference in terms of what she looks like on top compared to what she looks like off of her back. And it's the same thing with Lee, right? Like, I'm not the utmost impressed with what I've been seeing with Lee off of her back. And I do agree with you guys. I do think that she definitely won the Lauren Murphy fight. Like let's be honest.
Yeah.
She definitely won that fight. And she even got screwed in her own back round, which is fucking hilarious. But I think that Murphy's from Texas too, if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, she definitely won that fight. And then the Calderwood fight was iffy as well. But yeah, I got Shevchenko here. I'm going to go decision. No real strong read here, though.
Gotcha. All right, Locke, we'll stick with you with the second dumpster fire of the night. We got Lando Venata and Mike Grundy. We got.
Fuck this fight. Like, why do we gotta talk about this shit, right? I think it's accurately lined, but I'm gonna go with the grappler here. I'll go with or the wrestler, or more prominent wrestler. We should go with Mike Grundy. Obviously, Venata does have a wrestling background of his own. You just don't see it often inside the cage, which is a bit of a head scratcher. But when you're getting taken down by Mike D. Casey, the way that he's getting taken down, it leads me to believe that Mike Grundy will have some similar success here. I think he'll be pretty good with keeping that top control, maybe threatening with some submissions and stuff. But the issue is his gas tank. I'm not completely sold on his gas tank either. I feel like he does start to falter in the third round. Lando Venata, just not that trustworthy, right? He's a far cry from what we used to think of him after he had that fight with Tony Ferguson. He's just not coming close to that potential that we had of him. And he's a little bit too lackadaisical here. I mean, I don't think he's completely in it with a win attitude. It's more of an entertainment attitude. And I feel like that's what's going to cost him here, especially against a guy like Grundy, who has very strong wrestling. Again, I think he's going to get some top control. I think he'll have relative ease controlling Venata. If Venata wants to attack the calf kick, as he did a couple times in the Bobby Green fight, that could be a path to victory for him here in terms of nullifying the grappling that's going to be coming his way. But I think it's going to be tough for him to keep Mike Grundy off of him. I don't think Grundy has the greatest striking. He does have some power, as we saw in the Narimani fight, but I do believe that was a quick stoppage. But I'm going to go with Grundy. I'm going to go with the wrestler here, or at least, again, the more recent wrestler in Grundy. I think he's going to grind him out. I'll go with decision here.
So you got anything?
Yeah, I like Grundy. I like Grundy early. I do agree on the gas tank issues with Grundy. But yeah, I think he's going to bring it early. I got a little bit of Grundy round one. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate if you want to play Lando, I don't necessarily hate it. Yeah, I'm stabbing round one. I kind of think that's where most of the equity lies on Grundy.
Magic?
I think Grundy is the side. He's like for an early sub too, I think. And if he doesn't get it, he probably can ride two rounds on top and survive. Venata is really not all that. When he floored Ferguson, people thought he was Bruce Lee, but he ain't shit. Antonio asleep. So whatever. But I honestly think Grundy is going to catch him. I had some money on Movsar Iplev when they fought, and I was shitting my pants when he was in there. Like this is it. There is no way he gets out of this. I don't know how he did it.
Crazy.
I think Grundy is the side.
Luke?
Yeah, no strong opinion. I'm picking Lando just because I don't like the striking defense of Grundy personally. But yeah, he obviously, I think, has a wrestling path. But really, outside of the Jacare fight, he has fought some good wrestlers in the past. Bobby Green twice, fought for Vola. I mean, really, there aren't many guys that are holding him down, over the course of 15 minutes. I understand the caliber of wrestler that Grundy is, I believe Olympic freestyle. Definitely, as Magic touched on, gave a guy in Evloev some troubles. I get it. But But I also think early, even if Grundy is having wrestling success, I do think Lando can put up some resistance, and I'm not really sold on the gas tank of Grundy if Lando's making him work too. And on the feet, I think Grundy's pretty liable. Like even before he dinged Narimani and knocked him out, he got hurt pretty bad early in that fight too. So I think we could see Lando pull some out here. Like I said, not a strong opinion. It's not a fight I really want to touch from a betting perspective. Yeah, I respect any Grundy takes. It's just more of like a sneaky, flashy, groovy Lando take that he like hits him with some spinning shit or something.
Yeah, so
let me add something. Wait a minute.
Go ahead.
If someone fancies a shot, this fight is good to bet the draw. Plus 7,900.
70.
Not
Like,
bad.
I can see
Not a bad draw.
Grundy getting 2 rounds, then cardio dying, catching a beating. I can see him dominating first round for a 10-8, getting him in some chokes, Lando surviving. It's live.
Yeah, I don't hate it.
Both those draws were against Frivola and Green, wrestling-based guys.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so it's similar to you, Luke. It's not so much a bullish take on, or just like a contrarian take with Venata, but just so much that I don't like the cardio I see from Grundy, and it's the output on the feet. If Lando was able to, stuff some takedowns, keep it on the feet longer than I expected to. But I side with Grundy. I think he's going to get the takedowns, probably get a decision. But I think it's close. I don't think you should be putting money on this fight. I think it's way too close. All right, see, we'll start with you. We got Jordan Wright and Pickett. I know you got to play here.
Yeah, I played a little bit of the over 1.5. I think Wright's the side. Originally I thought I was gonna like Pickett, but fucking Pickett sucks. He's kind of just tough. So I wouldn't be surprised if Wright subs Pickett. But yeah, I mean, Pickett's really not anything, and I think he's probably going to give Wright the fight that Wright needs to kind of look decent in. So yeah, I'm not like particularly sold one way or the other. Gun to my head, definitely take Wright sub, I guess, just because you got a big number there. But yeah, I kind of just play the over 1.5 because I thought I was going to beat the shit out of the line, but the line's not moving as much as I thought it would. So.
Okay. Lock?
Yeah, this one's a dumpster fire as well. You might as well throw into that category. Yeah. A lot of people are just insta-fading Jordan Wright just because it's the fun thing to do. But I think she's on the head. I think that he is going to make it a closer of a fight. My issue is that I feel like he does have some serious chin issues. I think that Jimmy Pickett could expose it. But then again, Jimmy Pickett, not the greatest fighter either, right? The only thing that you can really give him is that he's very durable. He was able to go the full 15 with Tafon, and he's fought some pretty big heavy hitters in the past and pretty much been able to go forward and actually still do relatively well. The Patty fight, you see what happens when he actually turns it up, and I feels like if he turns it up like he did in the Patty fight, I think you could get Jordan Wright out of there. I don't think Jordan Wright does well when when people are able to crowd him, stick it in his face and just kind of keep him uncomfortable. And I think that Pickett will be able to do that at least at 1 or 2 points of this fight. And I think one of those big punches are going to land and it's going to floor Wright and he'll get him out of there. Do I trust Pickett to do that? Fuck no. I'm staying the fuck away from this fight. I think the over 1.5, like Steve was saying, is a sneaky play here because people are expecting either guy to just get knocked the fuck out ASAP. But I think it could be dragged a little bit further, and I'll eventually go with the Pickett side. But like -3 level of confidence here because both guys are so shit and both guys are so volatile. So I'll go with Pickett and I'll go probably second round KO.
Yeah, see, I don't mind the over 1.5 because my thing here is, as you touched on, both these guys really aren't UFC caliber. But my thing is, I think these guys fight similar styles in the sense that they're one shot at a time. They're not working in combos much. They're not biting the mouthpiece like you touched on it. And I think that's kind of what comes down to whoever wins this fight is whoever bites down the mouthpiece, decides to throw more, bring the action, bring the fight to it. So I would like to say that Jordan Wright could do that. He has that more flashier type of style. But again, confidence level isn't very high, but I like a finish here, but I think the over 1.5 is a good spot, though. Luke?
Yeah, I guess just to not play complete contrarian, but in terms of like the Pickett's fights with Puna and Tafon, when those went over, and obviously the guy's shown some decent durability against 2 heavy hitters there. both of those fights, it almost just kind of seemed like he was in there to survive because both guys were coming after him and really chucking heat. Where if you watch Wright, he's not really a forward pressure, combo, big, output machine. He's, hands down, Beverly Hills Ninja, naked kicks, spinning stuff, big one and done explosive shots. So he's not really your come forward pressure kind of guy. With that being said, I think there are going to be openings for if Pickett does decide to bite down on the mouthpiece and go forward and take that path, because Wright doesn't push that kind of a pace necessarily that a guy in Tafon and in Puna does. But historically, he has not pushed that high of a pace. I think less than 3 significant strikes landed per minute. So I think largely the fight does come down to Pickett approach, but I also, can't really get out of my head him getting stuck in that really bad transition from Charles Byrd back in 2017 on the Contender Series. Right, I'd probably actually favor his submission game more than I do his striking, to be honest. The problem is he just doesn't have, really offensive wrestling upside, but Pickett just also kind of strikes me as a guy who could just get caught in some funky cage transition type thing, get his back taken. At the end of the day, both guys not really trustworthy. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the over 1.5. I definitely could see both of these guys finishing within the first 7.5 minutes, depending on approach.
Magic.
Man, I am upset because I cannot see the chat, and I'm sure people are talking some mad shit, and I wanted to see it.
Nobody's saying as much as I thought they would, to be honest.
They expected me to be 100 pounds. This fight, it's the main event. Let's be honest. This is the main event. Beverly Hills Ninja is coming for the belt. Like, he lost to Fluffy Hernandez, who was all roided on marijuana. And then this fluke lost to Joaquin Buckley, lucky punch. Not really. This is a dumpster fire fight. I think Wright is the better grappler. I think she has lost his mind playing the over. I think somebody's going to die. And I don't know. I'm going to give away some bets, because if not, I don't know what the fuck I am doing here. I parlayed the under 2.5. It's like minus 160, under 2.5. That's ridiculous. Beverly Hills Ninja has never been to the third round. Like, he's going to get nuked or get a clinch and a Muay Thai clinch and kill him, or something stupid will happen, but this fight is going to be a meme.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. We'll stick with you, Magic. We got Jacare making his return against Andre Muniz. We got.
I had Jacare against Kevin Holland, and I swear on the life of my grandmother that I will never bet Jacare again. And here we are. Like, that was the biggest fluke in the history of the sport. He knocked him out with a breakdance move. Let's be honest. That happened. And against Muniz here, like, I like Muniz. I played him against Fabinski, who is a bum and has no jiu-jitsu at all. But the guy gasses, he throws the kitchen sink on the feet. And Jacare, maybe he's totally shot and cannot take a shot anymore, and Muniz touches him and he just dies. Could happen, but I feel like he's the better grappler, much better striker. Muniz gas is bad, like really, really bad down the stretch. All his losses are by knockout. Jacare by knockout, plus 500. I mean, easy bet. I think he knocks him out on the feet if he keeps it standing for long, or Muniz plays guard a lot. He can control on top and ground and pound. I think it's very live. If this guy submits Jacare, I'm going to be shocked.
Yeah, no, I agree. Look.
Yeah, I've been pretty vocal about saying I don't like to play the shot or not narrative on guys. I just like to focus on what I've seen. Obviously, the Holland fight, not particularly encouraging, but really prior to that, he's going to split with Jan, the current champion, takes 2 rounds off of him, takes 2 rounds off of Hermanson, 1-1 with Weidman, knocks Weidman out in the third, competitive fight with Gastelum, starches Brunson. So I need a little bit more to really say that the guy's done. And I think it's honestly a good spot for Jacare because Magic kind of touched on it too. Muniz isn't a guy who pushes a crazy pace by any means. He's a guy who will sit there and play guard. Obviously, I valued the jiu-jitsu game of Muniz pretty highly, but I also valued the jiu-jitsu game of Jacare too. So I really think he does have a clear path in the wrestling and on the ground. Not saying he submits Muniz, but I think he could probably just grind out some lay and pray time on top, be defensively responsible. In terms of the striking, Jacare isn't particularly high output either, but I think his optics are better. He goes forward. What he lands clean, over 50% of his shots. So really, honestly, the only reason to me the line is the way it is because people think he's done. But if he's not done, what I will say, I think Jacare has -200, -300 upside here. I think he has Muniz covered just about everywhere.
Yeah, I couldn't really agree more. I played Jacare for a unit at -115, and I'm not gonna say like I flipped like a 180 in the sense like I liked Muniz and flipping to the Jacare side, but in the sense that I like Jacare and I didn't know if I was gonna bet him. But the more I think about it, it's essentially who's the better grappler, because I think Muniz, to get success to win this fight, is gonna have to have succeeded grappling. Is he gonna out grapple Jacare? Like, I don't think it can happen. And then on the feet, like you touched on, Luke, I don't think Jacare is dead at all. I think, if anything, Jacare is clearly the better technical striker here, hits way harder. As Magic touched on, I think Jacare could land takedowns here, and he could ground and pound Muniz and get a finish there too. So I think it's a solid spot, Jacare. Lock?
Yeah. Sorry. Everybody's on this narrative that like Jacare is glass chin, right? Just because of the way Kevin Holland knocked him out. But let's be honest, that was like a meme knockout. Like Magic, I was on Jacare as well for that fight. And we saw what happened if, that meme type of knockout doesn't happen in Kevin Holland's next two fights. He goes out there and gets grapple fucked. And you're telling me Jacare wasn't going to grapple fuck him? You're telling me that Jacare probably wasn't going to sub him either? I think that would have absolutely happened.
He was before, too. He looks, not to cut you off, but he looks solid before the knockout.
Yeah, he looked great. He looked great, but again, meme knockout, and now everybody's writing off Jacare saying that he has a glass chin. But in terms of Jacare actually getting knocked out, let's be honest. Last time before that was Robert Whittaker in 2017. Last time before that was Gegard Mousasi over 12 years ago. Right, like the guys, I don't believe the guy has glass chin. I don't know where that narrative is coming from, other than the whole Kevin Holland thing. But yeah, I'm right there with you guys. I think Jacare, this is a perfectly styled matchup for him. Andre Muniz is not really much on the feet, doesn't really have much to offer there. Lost complete confidence and respect for Antonio Hoyo, the way that he lost that fight against Andre Muniz. That was a dog shit fight. I actually had the under 2.5 in that as well, so it was very much so disheartening to see that shit go fucking 15 minutes. But yeah, like you said, Jacare should control this fight pretty much where it goes. I think he throws with more heat on the feet. I think he's responsible enough on the feet to stay away from anything that Muniz brings to him. And then I'm not sure if you guys already touched on it, but Muniz just accepts the guard a little bit too much, and I think that's going to cost him here against a high-level guy like Jacare. If he somehow arm bars fucking Jacare from guard here, I'd lose my shit just as Magic would. But I just don't see that happening. We know one of the last things to go with these guys is power and obviously jiu-jitsu acumen. And I feel like Damian Maia is definitely showing us that you can fucking be 45, 50 years old and go out there and still sub some dudes. And Jacare, only 41, right? I still think he can go out there and have a solid performance against a guy who stylistically is a great fight for him. So yeah, I do like Jacare here. I think there is a potential that he could get the ground and pound finish, considering the poor gas link of Andre Muniz. And one thing a lot of people are overlooking is that third round against Calvin Gastelum for Jacare Souza. That was a close round. Yeah, Jacare stalking him the majority of that round, throwing big shots, landing big shots. Like Calvin Gastelum was looking for a way out, in my opinion. And you possibly could have scored that fight for Jacare too. So again, I don't think Jacare is as washed as most people think he is. And I think that this is a good spot for him to go out there and get that dub against Andre Muniz.
See?
Yeah. Last Friday I thought we're Doom, and obviously he's above the age of 40. And I didn't put that much effort into that. I just kind of blind bet we're Doom for a lot of money for no reason. And then after that fight, I made it pretty clear to myself that I wasn't going to touch anyone who's in their 40s because it's just random as fuck. Like, power, strength, whatever, you could just die. But Jacare pretty much has Muniz covered like everywhere. I mean, it's not even like really like I mean, in my mind, it's pretty clear Jacare is like a substantially better grappler, so I don't really see the threat there. Muniz is just gonna like play guard versus Jacare. I mean, like, I think the best case for Muniz, I guess, is like Jacare is completely done, which I guess it could happen. Like he could just die from a jab, but Muniz doesn't even look like he has much power. I mean, fucking. He couldn't get Araujo out of there, and Arroyo is fucking pretty horrendous everywhere. So I don't even really know how dangerous of a grappler he is.
He's a good grappler.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I
He is.
was
Trust me, he
conservative.
is.
Yeah, I mean, I went conservative and I played Jacare for like 1.5 units. But like, if somebody told me they had 3 or 4 units on Jacare, I wouldn't. I don't hate it. I think hindsight, it's Jacare like minus 400. So, yeah, I guess the concerning thing is that the line's just fucking staying stagnant. And, like, I guess the people who I would consider pretty sharp, betting decent size, are all on Jacare and the line's not moving. So, either, like, some, like kids are just blindly, fading 41-year-olds, which can happen. I know, all the metric people are probably just blindly fading Jacare, but yeah, I guess that's my only concern is that the line's just fucking sitting there.
The metrics actually favor Jacare though in this fight.
Yeah, I think they're more so just blindly fading like age, not necessarily metrics, but I just think they fade age.
All right, we'll stick with you. We got Shane Burgos and Edson Barboza.
Ooh, this is your fight.
Who you got?
Sorry, you guys starting with me?
Oh, C.
No,
I was saying C, because I know C's out here.
I didn't hear what you said. Yeah, I took
sorry.
I took a big chunk of Shane. I took Shane knockout 2 and some Shane round 3. Yeah, I mean, not to say that I think Barboza is completely fucked, because obviously throws some heat and definitely could put Shane at risk early. But I think Shane. Shane's outside of McGregor. That's my boy, my favorite fucking fighter. I just love Shane's game. You beat fucking Barboza with pressure. I kind of just think, whatever Shane. I just kind of think Shane has Barboza completely fucked. Doesn't really have an answer to pressure. And I think Shane gets a little bit too much shit for, flaws defensively. He has the right ideas. He just kind of has that fuck you type mentality and trusts his chin a little bit too much sometimes. But in general, he actually has like pretty good defense. But yeah, I think he's just going to fucking shred Barboza. Honestly, I probably have too much on Shane just because I like the guy. Plus, we're riding the Trezano high. So them Tiger boys going to get after it.
All right, Luck.
Yeah, pre-tape I was on Barboza just because of what C just said, because defensively speaking for Shane Burgos, he gets hit a lot. And the last thing that was really on my mind was Josh Emmett teeing off on him, knocking him down twice, but you got to give it to Burgos in terms of not actually getting out of there. Josh Emmett is a fucking madman. You're talking about in 9 UFC fights, the guy's recorded 10 fucking knockdowns, 4 against Felipe Aranches alone. That was absolutely insane. The guy has heavy hands for sure, and Burgos was able to eat them and not actually get out there. Obviously, Cachoeira was able to finish him when they fought a couple fights ago, but I do think that Burgos will be the side here ultimately, right? I do actually like the line. Minus 140-ish is not too bad. I think ultimately it's going to be that pressure. Now, Barboza isn't that one-hitter quitter kind of guy. I think he's going to struggle to get his game going because Burgos will kind of keep him on the back foot for the majority of the fight. And I think that's how Burgos wins this fight. As long as his chin isn't completely checked out and as long as Josh Emmett hasn't significantly deterred him in terms of durability, I think Burgos wins this fight, man. Also, the leg kicks is something you obviously got to worry about with Barboza, but obviously those are not as effective when he's on his back foot, and that's a little bit of a concern. Not to mention the speed at which he throws his kicks is a bit of a concern as well as a Burgos backer. But I think the volume and the forward pressure is all going to be Burgos here, and as long as he doesn't get put out silly, I think he actually puts it on Barboza and just kind of breaks him over the 15-minute period. Does he finish him? I'm not 100% sure. This is the third, or I believe it's actually the third fight that Barboza is going to be down at 145. And at what point is that going to start to catch up to him, right? The guy's 35 years old. It can't be a good cut, let's be honest. And then eventually it's going to start to affect his durability. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Burgos put him out, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. I'll go with Burgos. I think he just keeps him on the back foot and outpoints him over 15 minutes.
So actually somewhat similar to you, I guess. As I was thinking, I was like, oh, okay, maybe Barboza could test the chin of Burgos here, but I think that just Burgos' pace and pressure of just that crowding style of him is just going to be too much for Edson. I mean, we've seen years in the past that is the kind of kryptonite style to beat Edson, and I think Shane brings that perfectly to people saying like, you know, his durability is cracking. I wouldn't really go to say that again, like you touched on, Josh Emmett, durable enough to stay in there against Josh Emmett, and I think this is a perfect spot for Shane to get a knockout. Could he, you know, just batter him 30-27 type of decision, beat him to a pulp? Could happen as well, but I think it's a solid spot for Shane with that pace and that pressure. So I got 3 units on Shane at -120, and I have a half unit stab at knockout at +420. Luke?
Yeah, I thought I'd probably be staying away from this one pre-tape. And after tape, I ended up on Burgos. It's ironic because, you know, Burgos has struggled, you know, in those third rounds in the attritional damage historically, you know, Josh Emmett, Calvin Cater and whatnot, but you guys kind of touched on it. You know, I think Shane Burgos is a decent archetype to beat a guy in Barboza if he doesn't die, which I think is in play, but I think that is also more in play early on, because the longer this fight goes, to me, what that means is that Shane is walking him down. Shane is getting inside. Shane is limiting that space. Shane is wearing on that cardio Barboza. So it's actually a spot where the later this fight goes, ironically, that I think it favors Burgos as well. I don't rule, you know, a round 3 attritional KO from Burgos, actually, but I more so see him just kind of beating up Barboza over the course of the first 15 minutes. But I do think that first 5 minutes is going to be hairy. You guys touched on it. You know, Shane is there to be kicked and hit. So, you know, if Barboza blasted him with something, I really wouldn't be shocked. But once again, I think that is also more, you know, limited to, you know, at least the first, you know, 7.5 minutes of that fight. In general, I just think the win condition of Barboza is a little limited. And Shane, to Locke's credit too, you know, touching on the Emmett fight, dude took a lot of shots before he really started getting dinged, you know, bad late in that fight. He took like some massive power hooks. And just random fun note about, you know, Josh Emmett, that guy has been probably one of the most undervalued guys at the window in the history of the UFC, up there with Jan. I think he's been a dog in like 80% of his fights, and the guy's lost like 1 or 2 in the UFC. Like, if you've been betting Josh Emmett for like the last 4 years, your bankroll's sitting pretty good. But I digress. I think Burgos is the spot. I'm not as bullish on it in terms of like loading up on it, because for me, it's just tough to put too much on it, given the defensive issues, given the explosiveness of Barboza, you know, blasting your Terry Adams and your Bennies. Like, he's done that shit in the past. I wouldn't be shocked if it happens here, but I do think Shane is the superior minute winner who's also live for a finish. So I do think Shane is worth a play. I think more so if you got in closer to around that even number at -140. I don't know if I love it as much, but I like Shane to win the fight.
Magic?
I think the line is about right, money line wise. If Burgos doesn't eat something huge, I think he's going to win, basically on volume and pace. I have said this before, Barboza is one of the most overrated strikers in the UFC. He's not a great MMA striker. If you put all the division in kickboxing gloves in a kickboxing match, Barboza wins, but in MMA, he's not all that. His footwork is horrible. He backs to defense all the time. When he wants to get off, his angles are not really good. He just covers up, and Gaethje killed him because of that. And I mean, yeah, I like Burgos. He grabbed the fence 6 times against Americani, so fuck him. But yeah, I think he gets it here. I think he's the side. Line looks about right, and may look short. If Burgos doesn't get hit with something huge, line may look short after the fight, but I don't know. I think he's going to win.
Yeah, agreed. All right, Luke, we'll start with you here. We got Caitlin Chookagian and Viviane Araujo. What do you got?
Yeah, another fight that I didn't anticipate that I was going to pony up my money for. I've been a Caitlin Chookagian truther. I backed her at plus 230 against Cynthia Calvillo. And it's ironic because I've been very vocal about my issues with Araujo historically, but I actually think she has corrected a few significant issues, most notably the cardio. In recent years, we saw her go a hard 15 minutes with Montana, still got hit a lot. I concede that, but she was the girl going forward, the girl winning the optics, and 130-27 beat Montana up pretty bad, beat Roxy up pretty good too. Both girls' offensive metrics are good. They're high volume. They're both hittable, though. And so really what the fight comes down to me is optics, where obviously Chookagian is, the traditional weasel in terms of the judging, which always terrifies me. She makes noises, she does things, but so does Araujo. I think Araujo brings a different level of physicality at this weight class personally. And now that I have a better degree of confidence in her to be able to go a hard, 15 minutes, that's the main reason I'm backing her here, coupled with the fact I think she does have a wrestling path in the fight. Chook only stuffs takedowns at 51%. I'd say about half the times that she is getting taken down, she will accept, she will play guard. I understand brown belt Danaher. I get all that, but historically she hasn't been much of a submission threat, willing to play from her back. Araujo's a black belt. She's always been solid on top. I think she can be defensively responsible here. So largely, I think the stand-up's probably pretty competitive. I lean Araujo, but it's I think the offensive wrestling path for Araujo that is the main reason why I think she's value at plus 120. But what I will say to play contrarian against my own take, the one time we have seen Vivi on her back was when she got swept by Alexis Davis. She got stuck there for 3 minutes. The round ended and didn't get back up. We saw Chook, go out there and ragdoll Shevchenko for the first time in her career. I think that fight was actually the first takedown she's ever attempted / landed in 12 UFC fights. So that's in play. I get it. But once again, I'm also backing the girl with a plus next to her name. So I'm willing to concede a little bit more things with me slightly favoring her on the feet, me thinking she has a very substantial path to wrestle here and help her secure rounds there. Once again, not a big play for me. Chookagian's talked about starting a family here. I think she takes an L here and hangs up the gloves, and we see Vivi challenge for a title soon.
So not super confident take on my end, but I lean with you as well on the Araujo side. You touched on with the grappling. I think that's very well in play. And then the striking, it's pretty close. I would lean Chookagian potentially on the output, but I think that Vivi could compete on output as well as obviously landing the harder shots here. And then as you touched on, I'll play contrarian too. Could Chookagian land takedowns here? I don't really think so. I think Vivi's got pretty solid takedown defense. She showed that against Roxy, obviously. 2 different levels wrestler. But I like Vivi here. I got a half unit stab at her by decision plus 220. Not a super confident take. I just think plus 220, 31% indicated. That's a little crazy. Lock.
Yeah, I really like Chook in this spot. I like the takes that you guys are giving, and I will concede right away that the big concern here is if Araujo I see you, Magic. The big concern here is if Vivi does take that grapple heavy approach, right? Chookagian, I think she will do a good enough job in terms of getting back to her feet, but obviously it's not going to look good in terms of the judges' scorecards if Vivi is landing takedowns and the striking is competitive. But my main concern about Vivi is most of her fights outside of the Just Guy fights have been played on her terms. The thing that Just Guy did differently that all these other fighters didn't do is they weren't the ones going first. They weren't the ones kind of crowding her and letting her game go. But there were instances in the De La Rosa fight, even in the Modafferi fight, where you see them going first. You see De La Rosa and Modafferi going first, and it kind of gives Araujo some issues, right? She's usually the one kind of staying competitive, staying moving, and just waiting for opportunity to pop and let it go. But when De La Rosa is throwing shots at her and just staying competitive and staying as or being the first person that's throwing her shots, it didn't look that good for Viviane Araujo. The only issue is De La Rosa just stayed at a distance that Viviane could just return her shots and really get her game going. Chookagian, she moves well, right? No, I'm not a big fan of her style, but it works. It's almost a Neo Magni type of approach outside of the grapple heavy approach that Magni takes.
My boy.
Shout out to Andrew G right there. If I'm not mistaken, that's knockout bets. But yeah, if Chookagian can pick her apart from the outside and continuously move, I think it's going to cause Viviane Araujo trouble, especially if Chookagian is the one getting her shots off first, because she's not going to be there to get hit by the counters. I think it's going to look like Araujo throwing out a lot of air for a lot of the fight. And I know their reach is the same, but we do have a 5-inch height advantage here on Chookagian, who uses that very well in terms of getting her shots off on the inside and then getting out. The Jessica Eye fight is obviously the big kryptonite here for Araujo, and I think that we can see Chookagian go out there and implement a similar type of style, which is go first, stay on your bicycle, and don't let Vivi get comfortable. And then that grappling thing starts to come into play, right? Where Viviane, if she does look to get the fight to the ground, it could possibly sway the judges here. I'm not 100% sold on the fact that Chookagian is going to get Araujo down. I'll give this to her. Araujo does have good takedown defense. Her hips looks really well. She reacts very well to takedown attempts. And I'd be surprised if Chookagian actually does. But I wouldn't be surprised if Chookagian lulls her for like 10 minutes and then in the third round decides to take the fight to the ground just to change it up a little bit. And then let's see how good Araujo's get-up game really is, right? Like that Alexis Davis fight was not a good look in terms of not being able to get it off her back in that second round. But I really like Chook in this spot. I think she's going to be able to disrupt the striking game of Viviane, just staying on her bicycle, popping the shots, putting up the volume, being away from the big shots when Viviane does throw them, and just staying active enough. So I like Chook by decision -105. Not a bad line either. If you want a lock of the night play, go with the fight goes to decision -6-3, whatever the fuck it's at. But in terms of an actual a play here, I'm going to go Chookagian. I'll take her by decision as well.
See around there? I don't think that it's. All right, Matt, we're good. Magic.
Okay, I have no bets for the fight, but I'm going to play devil's advocate. I agree with most of the things Luke said. I think Araujo is the side. I think line should be reversed, probably, but I don't feel too comfortable sitting on Araujo +110 or +105 with the decisions we have seen lately. I mean, I can see Araujo winning all the Twitter scorecards and then losing a split easily. And I think a lot of girls in that division can exploit Araujo. His bottom game is not good. Like if you get her down, it's probably the round if you are decent. But Chookagian is not really that girl. She's not physically imposing. I think Araujo hits harder. The leg kicks, I think, probably play a big part in this fight. I think she can mold Chookagian if she tries to, like, get the body lock and smash her to the ground and control there. I think she's the side. I think she's going to win, but pass. Because I don't think she's going to finish. And I was like, if knockout is a crazy line, I'll take it, but it's not a crazy line, so pass.
All right, we'll stick with you, Magic. We got Matt Schnell and Rogerio Bontorin. Hot take. What do you got?
Bontorin by whatever he wants. Like, yeah, I'm surprised the commission has not already overturned that France loss. That was like Bontorin was rolling for a leg and the ref stopped it. That was horrible. He wasn't. He wasn't even hurt, man. That was horrible. And the guy was pissed. I mean, I would be too. But Schnell is a fraud. I don't know why everybody loves to get Schnell. He's a fucking fraud, man. His best attribute is his guard game, I think. Like, he's slick with his legs, triangles, arms. But on the feet, like, he boxes well. I'll give him that. But he's very hittable, and his chin is garbage. Like, Bontorin is a fucking tank, and this fight is at 135. I see no one talking about this. This fight is at 135, not 125. I think if Bontorin is going to hit him in the chin and put him out cold, honestly, or take his back and finish him. I can see Schnell surviving and out-voluming him for a decision or a late finish, but Bontorin finishes is the bet. I am on Bontorin, inside the distance and by knockout.
See?
You're muted, C.
You muted, C.
I took some of the under 2.5 at plus like 155. Honestly, it's not going to surprise me if they both go to war. I think either could be knocked out. I think Schnell's got quicker hands. Grappling will be interesting. Schnell's going to go for the guillotine and whatnot. Bontorin could take his back. I just see the under. I think they're going to go to war. I don't have a particular side, but yeah, under's good to me.
Lock.
Yeah, no real confidence on this. I do kind of agree with the guys in terms of the under here. I could also see Schnell going out there and possibly outboxing Bontorin here, going 50 minutes and decisioning him. I do think he has some slick hands. I do think he has some good work on the feet. I'm still kicking myself for initially picking Schnell when he was fighting Nam and then completely switching my side and going to Nam by KO. That really, that felt like a kick in the dick, especially how considering how confident I was on Schnell when they were first booked. But yeah, I think he's good enough on the feet to kind of keep it up there as long as he doesn't get wrapped up in the jiu-jitsu of Bontorin. I think that he'll be able to do some good work on the feet, and I'll box him over 15 and potentially find that knockout at some point. I think he has some decent power in his hands, but I think I'll go with the decision instead, and I'll go on the Schnell side.
Yeah, so I don't have a super confident for a side take as well, but I like the under 2.5, but plus 105 isn't exactly intriguing. The plus 150 that C got, I would much rather have it lines when they got released, plus 110, plus 150, not too eager on it. But I think it's a violent spot for sure, but just not loving lines personally. Luke?
Yeah, I like that line you got, C. I think the play for this fight was the under 2.5 if you jumped in around that 40% indication. I think right now the market's pretty much corrected it. It's actually now to favorite money on a majority of the books. I wouldn't touch it. I wouldn't touch it there. But I've always been like a proponent of Schnell. I think if you get a smart Schnell, I think his boxing is crisp. He's fast. He's good. But the problem is we got 3 fights to suggest now that the guy's going to bite down on the mouthpiece and go to war. And the thing with, his last fight with Nam's a guy that kind of just follows guys around. And hindsight 2020, you told me that Matt Schnell was going to fight smart. I was also probably going to bet him, but I wasn't convinced that he was going to, and he did. And then great, he looked, probably minus 233. And so my kind of Eddie Bravo take here is Bontorin, despite him not being like a super high output guy, he kind of fights in bursts, but he's a guy who I think can bring that dogfight, old school Matt Schnell to bite down on the mouth. Because once again, guys, it was the Nam fight where he looked good. That was his last fight. But what was the fight right before that? That was a fight against the cannibal, Mr. Pantoja, where he decided to go to war. So it's not like we exactly now have this, 2-3 fight stretch of Nobel Peace Prize Matt Schnell by any means. So I would like to see, a more intelligent Schnell and a bit longer of a streak. But that's kind of my sneaky take why I think if you are to bet this fight from a money line perspective, I actually do think the value is with Bontorin. Magic touched on it. It is up at 135 now. I would assume that might have a little bit better to do with his gas tank. Schnell will accept takedowns. Bontorin took the back of Bibulatov twice, something that's not particularly easy to do. Ragdolled Cachoeira France. I was on Cachoeira France in that spot, and I did not see him. I did not see him, ragdolling him for 4 minutes, taking his back at all. So I do think Bontorin's the side. Not enough of a price for me to bet, because I do think if you get smart Matt Schnell, I think he's the faster, crisper boxer, probably the better minute winner. But gun to my head, money line's Bontorin for me.
All right, brings us to the co-main event. We got Tony Ferguson, Beneil Dariush. Lock, kick us off. What do you got?
Yeah, everybody seems to be on the fade Ferguson train, right? Like right off the bat, they're just like, Ferguson's dead. He's washed, just Beneil Dariush lock of the night. But I'm not so quick to write off Ferguson here. I'm not saying that I'm going to pick Ferguson to win this fight, because that would be absolutely insane to me considering what we've been seeing from him in his last 2 fights. But, are we going to 100% go out there and trust Beneil Dariush, who likes to get into firefights at times and likes to mix it up and get crazy? We did see him stay a little bit disciplined in his fight against Diego Ferreira, where he mixed in the takedowns and obviously was able to kind of control him on the mat there. And he could have the same success here that Charles Oliveira did against Ferguson. On the feet, it could get a little bit wild, right? Dariush is wild himself too. He's not any crazy technical striker. He is getting better with his striking since we first saw him inside the UFC, so don't get me wrong. But I think this fight is a lot more volatile than people are making it out to be, with the whole Dariush, again, you slam him because he should win this fight. I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive. I will ultimately side with Dariush because it'll be just fucking crazy for me to go out there and be betting Ferguson off the back of those 2 losses. But if there's anybody that's going to go out there and change his fortune, especially the adversity that he's been through, it's got to be a guy like Tony Ferguson, who's just a complete madman. So I do agree that the one thing that fucking freaks me out is the lack of takedown defense that we get from Tony Ferguson. The jiu-jitsu, obviously, Dariush is a very high-level jiu-jitsu player himself, so I don't think he's going to be completely lost on the ground with whatever that is that Ferguson decides to do that he does on the ground with his jiu-jitsu and his craziness off of his back. But yeah, that takedown defense is too much of a red flag for me to go out there and back Ferguson as a dog in the spot. I wanted to play the under 2.5, but I could see Dariush somewhat taking that safe path and just grinding out Ferguson over that 15-minute period. So I'll go Dariush, I'll go decision, but I'm not as confident as the most of the public seems as they are on Dariush here.
Yeah, so I am one of those confident people on Dariush. I got 2 units Dariush at minus 140. Similar to the Edson and Shane matchup, I just think that there's such a small, narrow path to victory for Tony here. I think that it's largely a standing KO here. I think that largely he's going to be losing minutes here. Benil's going to have grappling success, I think, in my opinion. And like you touched on, Block, I think he has grappling. Dariush has the grappling, acumen to stay safe on top. So I like Dariush. I wouldn't be actually surprised to see Dariush knock Tony out on the feet. Dariush throws some heat. He will come forward with that pressure, with the wrestling. I don't know. I think the only reason why I'm a little bit skeptical, like laying heavier chalk on Benny, obviously, we've seen he likes to get in those wars, those fights, that durability, but I don't think Tony has much for him on the feet, to be honest. So I like Benil here. I like him a lot. Luke?
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say it's an interesting one, but for some reason, not from necessarily like a logical or capping perspective, but this fight just has so much trap written all over it to me, where, like I said, not from a logical perspective, because I do think the path for Benny is very clear. Obviously, he's kind of went life or death at times, but really, if you look at his recent run, grinded CDF. There was obviously some life or death with Holtzman, but backpacked Jacare close for the first round, ran Camacho on the ground, ran Dober on the ground, ran Moises on the ground. So, I mean, recently he has been consistent in terms of going to the wrestling. Like you said, high-level black belt, can wrestle, can be defensively responsible on top. But, if this is a 15-minute range kickboxing affair, I don't think Benny just blows him out of the water by any means. So if I was to play this fight, I think actually Benny by decision is probably the play here. Because even go back and look at the Gaethje fight with Ferguson. I mean, I know people are like, oh, well, Ferguson's washed, he's done now. But it's like, dude, he took like 22 minutes of a shitload of shots from one of the hardest hitters in the division in Justin Gaethje. And when it got stopped, it's not like the dude got floored cold. Like he got hit with like a jab and kind of backed up, and the ref just said like, mercy volume attritional damage stop. It's not, you didn't get put out by Gaethje. So it's like, all right, yeah, he has taken a lot of shots. Maybe, the time comes for everybody and they just can't take it anymore. I concede that. But to me, if you are to play it, I think it's like, I think it's a good buy down spot, because I think the grinding narrative of Dariush is there, which will limit the finish upside, which will limit, the attritional, volume walk you down type of game from Tony, at the same time limit the potential, quote unquote, people talk about Dariush's chin, but I think that's overblown personally. Anyway, instead of laying, minus 170, you're getting decision, 40% implied. I think it's probably the most likely outcome of this fight. That's how I would play it.
Magic?
Dariush is my guy. If God exists, he will let Dariush be champion at least once. He's the nicest guy in the UFC. I love him. But he's going to fucking die eventually. I mean, I talk about this on Twitter a bit. Like, if the guy goes out and grapples heavy, he probably looks minus 300, but he's extremely hittable. He gasses. I know that he comes back like the Walking Dead. He doesn't stop coming. But he's gassed. Like, he's there to be hit. And Ferguson is long. He has a sneaky uppercut. I don't know. He may get hurt. And I can see a lot of angles to bet this fight. I have a lot of bets, honestly. One that I like a lot, fight ends by submission plus 600. I think that's wild. And I don't know. Honestly, I think Benil is going to dominate him, but I can see him dying too. I think he gets a takedown. Like, Ferguson is going to try some stupid 10th planet shit and find himself mounted in like 30 seconds because he's a retard. The guy's so stupid, man. I don't know. Vinil is going to get on half guard, pressure pass, mount him, get the back. I can see Vinil looking like people are saying, "Oh, Vinil was minus 1,000 hit side or whatever." But he may die. I hope he doesn't die because I think Ferguson is a turd and I like Vinil a lot. So Vinil for the win.
See?
Yeah. I don't disagree. Benny's probably the side. Yeah, I mean, he throws some heat, man. Benny is hittable though. I think I kind of agree with Luke though on the decision play. I mean, I do think Tony's he's tough to get out of there. I mean, he ate what Gaethje was throwing for fucking 5 rounds, and Gaethje throws more heat and much better boxing. But yeah, I mean, Tony does have that sneaky uppercut that Magic's talking about. I mean, he landed it on Gaethje, and if the round didn't end, honestly, I have no fucking idea what could happen. We're probably in a different situation. Yeah, I mean, I think if Tony's gonna bring in pressure and swarm, and Benny's not gonna wrestle, and it's gonna be close. I mean, Tony's volume is hard to fucking deal with. The guy doesn't fuck off, and he's super fucking durable, man. But yeah, I think Benny's the side, lean Benny decision. But honestly, I don't think betting Tony Ferguson like round 3 or whatever is ever like a bad bet, especially versus Benny, who could gas. But yeah, I think good fight. You got in on Benny early. You're in good position. But yeah, no strong, super strong opinion, I guess.
All right, see, we'll stick with you. We got the main event: Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, vacant lightweight title. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm a fan of Chandler in this spot. I think it's a bad matchup for Oliveira. Honestly, I've switched over most of my Chandler position when that under opened up, under 2.5. I got it even money. I've kind of just moved what I've had on Chandler money line over to the under 2.5, so I got a pretty big stake in that. My opinion, more or less, I mean, if Chandler really wants to look intelligent, probably just wrestles. I think he'll be fine. I do think he's a pretty good grappler and can avoid the sub. But I have a feeling that these guys are going to war. I still have like suspicions on Charles. I do kind of think Kevin Lee before he got subbed, I kind of feel like he mentally had Charles in a place where Charles was kind of like on the feet. I just kind of think he kind of breaks down a little bit. And Chandler's going to fucking come for that body. Yeah, I think these guys go to war. I don't really trust either of them too much durability-wise if they go to war. So that's kind of why I just took the under 2.5. But yeah, I mean, if it goes 5 rounds, honestly, if it goes to a decision, I feel like it's Chandler just via wrestling. I don't know really what Charles' decision looks like. Just because I don't know. I have a hard time seeing Charles winning a decision. But yeah, under 2.5 is the side.
Lock.
Yeah, I like Chandler here too. Solid dog spot in my opinion. I've been seeing the takes out there regarding Charles. I do agree he's the better minute winner when it comes to the striking just because of his versatility on the feet. But I'm just not 100% sure he'll be able to deal with the power of Chandler on the feet. I think Chandler's going to be the faster guy here. I think he will be able to land on the chin of Charles Oliveira. Oh,
You're good. You're good. Lock. You're good.
Just another day of the Club
See-
and Sub
see-
podcast.
see,
But
I
either
know.
way,
Lock it.
no, I think that Chandler is going to be the much more explosive and faster guy here. I think he'll be able to end up on the chin of Charles. I do agree that the under 2.5 is probably the best way to go, as I do think, there is high volatility in this fight. I think Chandler has a bit of a shaky chin. I think Charles obviously has a very shaky chin and shaky will. A lot of people are out there saying that, Charles probably, he's gotten over his quitting mentality, and that narrative is out the window. But why would he quit against guys like fucking Clay Guida and Christos Iagos and these types of guys, right? So the only wins that I'll give him legit credence for, the David Tamor fight, great win for him, especially finishing him on the feet the way that he did, or at least started off the finish on the feet. The Kevin Lee one, it wasn't looking too good for him, right? That second round, he's looking up at the ref guys, stand me up. What do you mean? Kevin Lee's staying active enough from on top in half guard. Where's your jiu-jitsu at? Where's your ability to retain guard or get back to your feet or reverse or something like that, right? So I think that aspect of that Kevin Lee fight was being very much overlooked. Obviously, Kevin Lee, we all know, has a horrible gas tank, and he just pretty much threw himself into a guillotine in that third round, which just cashed that under 2.5 for me that night too. A little bit of a sweat considering that he even made it to the third round. And then obviously the Tony Ferguson fight, right? We've never seen Ferguson outgrinded that way before. That was a very interesting way for Ferguson to take an L. But all of a sudden people are like Charles Oliveira, champ, greatest 155er right now and all that stuff. I think that's a little bit overblown. I think Chandler, even though he doesn't have the resume to match Charles Oliveira, who's been in the UFC for almost a decade at this point, it's unfair to fucking Michael Chandler, right? The guy is at the wrath of being in Bellator, and now he's finally over in the UFC, and he can start racking up wins with some good names. And I think we see him get the title this week. And I think he lands on the chin of Charles. But just to cover my ass, I'm going to take the under 2.5. I think that's the safest spot to go here, as I think that there is high volatility on both sides. I think one guy is going to get the finish. I think it's going to be Chandler. I'd feel even safer if the widely available total was 3.5. I wouldn't mind having that extra 5 minutes. But I still expect this fight to be high offense from the beginning. I don't expect Charles to get Chandler down as easily as he got Ferguson down. And yeah, I think he's going to struggle to be able to do what he did to Chandler. Chandler never been submitted. Highest level of jiu-jitsu players that he's fought against. Obviously, Goyota Yamauchi, we saw him do very well, staying on top and landing some good damage. And then Sydney Outlaw, that fight didn't even hit the ground, so we don't even get to see how that fight would have played out if Chandler decided to play guard there and see what he could do. But I do think that Charles can still be broken. And I think he's going to be broken this weekend when Chandler gets out of the submission attempts, stays away from the big shots, and then starts landing his own big shots. I wouldn't even be surprised if it came ground and pound. It wasn't, what started off or was right before the winning streak of Charles Oliveira? The fucking Paul Felder ground and pound knockout. Who the fuck thought that Paul Felder was going to ground and pound this guy after surviving a bunch of submission attempts, right? I think Chandler will survive it all and then eventually finish Oliveira here. So I'll go Chandler, probably first round knockout by nuking him, or if he gets it to the second round, probably starts getting him down, starts breaking him, and then landing big ground and pound and getting Charles out of there. So I'll go Chandler, and I'll go finish first or second round.
So look quickly on Best Fight Odds, actually. The under 3.5 for most books, it looks like they have it at minus 250. So
I like that too, to be honest. I don't mind the chalk there.
My thing is with the chalk here, I was looking at it from a statistic angle. The Chandler's fights, 18 of his 27 have gone under 2.5. 34 of Oliveira's 38 have gone under 2.5. I think the 2.5 is a perfect number just by itself. So I got a unit and a half, minus 140, under 2.5 rounds. And I also played a unit on Chandler by KO at plus 280. I think you hit the nail on top. I think Chandler's likely just going to put him out on the feet. And I think that just that the pace, that in-your-face type of pressure again, and the power, I think it's going to, give Charlie some, quitter vibes in the back of his head. I think that type of style is really going to mess with him. Luke?
Yeah, another fight that I didn't anticipate I'd have action on, but I ended up on Chandler's money line. Really, I guess my overall takeaway, you guys have hit on a lot of the points too. I think that Chandler is just a decent archetype to beat a guy in Oliveira. But granted, anytime, regardless of who the fuck you're betting on against Charles Oliveira, you have to know what you're getting into in betting against a guy like Charles Oliveira, one of the most dangerous submission artists in the UFC. I think 15 subs, has attempted, I think, the second most amount of subs at 35 in
Yep.
UFC history, only second to Jim Miller. But in terms of like the wrestling, I'm kind of with C. I think that Chandler can actually be fine from top position largely. What I'm more concerned about is guillotines on entry, because he will kind of stick his neck in there, really, really blast it out. So that's more so where I'm concerned from the submission side. But despite Oliveira's striking, in my opinion, coming a really long way, in the last 5 years or so, offensively and defensively, I still think he has a lot of defensive issues. I think that, explosive type nature of Chandler actually works to his benefit here. He's not necessarily a guy who's, pushing a quote unquote consistent pace in extended fights. He fights more so in bursts, but I actually think that kind of helps him here, because I think he might be able to kind of lull Oliveira into thinking he's in some more comfortable striking rhythms, and then Chandler just blasts him at some point. So, and I largely think that probably comes within the first 10 minutes. It's kind of a fight where I think the rubber's going to meet the road, and we're going to get some answers relatively quickly. But to C's point too, Chandler could take the path where he says, I'm the high-level wrestler. I'm a solid grappler too. I can be positionally responsible. Let me just take this guy, break him on the ground, grind it out, make it greasy, gritty. Every time he throws something up, I'm in a posture. I'm going to pass. I'm just going to stay on him and just make it ugly. Maybe even transition to the back, knees there, elbow down, mat return. Just be a blanket. He could take that approach here too. But yeah, so I think Chandler is the side. Once again, yeah, you got to know what you're getting into in betting against a guy in Du Bronx. But I think Chandler's been fine, even touched on a couple of the good grapplers he's fought. But he's also fought Bendo, black belt. He fought Brett Primus, black belt. Quinn touched on it. Primus did take his back. I concede that, but once again, the guy has not been submitted his entire pro career. So at plus money, once again, would I play Chandler, minus 130? Probably not. But at like plus 115, plus 120, there's some meat on the bone in a guy who I think has multiple paths to victory in this fight. Maybe some of that quitter Charles Oliveira still reads its head based on that style that Chandler can bring. So I think that's an interesting consideration. So once again, it's not going to be a super big play, super confident take, play on the numbers, guy who has paths to victory, decent archetype to beat a dangerous submission artist in Oliveira. So we will see if I look like a genius or a jackass on Saturday night.
Magic?
I agree with some things you said, all of you, and I disagree with some others. I think she said he got under 2.5 plus money.
Minus 110.
Minus 110, like that is a bet the house spot. That is not going to rounds. And I honestly think Chandler is going to smoke him. Oliveira is my guy. He's a great submission grappler, but he's a quitter. The guys he has beat, other than Kevin Lee, they were not that great. And I think I agree with what she said. He was putting Oliveira in some position mentally where he was starting to doubt himself, and then he shot into a guillotine, whatever. I mean, Oliveira can finish anyone. Good Muay Thai, hits hard, he's big. If he gets you on the body lock, you are going down probably. And if he gets on top of you, you are fucked. Like, you are fucked. If he's on your back, the fight is pretty much over. But I think Chandler, some of you said maybe Chandler wrestles here. I think there is 0 chance he wrestles here. I think he's going to keep it on the feet and beat him to the punch, go to the body, go upstairs. I honestly think Chandler is going to win this fight in less than 2 minutes. Hot take.
Wow. All right. Well, you hear that?
I may
first,
look like a
Club
fucking idiot too, but whatever.
You heard it first. Club and Sub lock of the night. Magic. All in on Chandler. Well, that wraps it up here. Lock, Magic. Appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate
they can parlay.
What?
Some parlays or what?
Oh, you got a Lambo parlay for the people?
Of course.
Let it fly, Magic.
Beverly Hills Ninja round 1, Chandler round 1, Burgos round 3. 50 to win 24K.
Shit.
Easiest 24K of your
Cash
life.
it.
All right, Locke, we'll start with you. Thanks for having you on. The floor is yours. Shout out whatever you want.
Yeah, for sure. No, shout out to the club and sub dudes, man. I'm glad that I was able to bring some people over as soon as I wrapped up my stream about 10 minutes before we kicked off. But
Appreciate you.
Magic is the what is it? What do they call it? The A side? Is he a what's that fucking term? The wrecker? I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say here, but he brings the numbers, is what I'm trying to say.
He's the
shout out to
Connor.
Magic.
He's the Connor.
Exactly. Shout out to Magic for coming on, popping his podcast, Jerry. And let's give a round of applause on his English, man. He was giving himself a lot of flack for the
It is
ability
like all right.
Sorry?
Yeah, it's good. Great.
It's all right.
Yeah, dude,
Like,
your English is way better than you're
In my
making it
head,
sound.
I sound amazing, but I think I sound like Habib. I'm torn. I'm not sure.
Nah, bro. It was much better than a lot of people were expecting, especially considering that you just kept talking shit to yourself and that you haven't spoken English in like 3 years. But no, you were definitely on the ball, bro.
It's true.
You're on the ball, man. I think everybody understood.
It's true. I was in Malta last time I spoke English 3 years ago.
God damn. Well, it's good. It's definitely good. And you should definitely make some more podcast appearances. I think people would really enjoy that for sure. But yeah, in terms of my side of things,
Show me the money.
we're see with that BTC, right? He wants that Bitcoin, no? Three Bitcoin?
He texts Elon Musk so he can make Bitcoin tank before paying me.
Get a little less value. That's it. Yeah, no, shout out to you guys for sure, man. It was a fucking fun show as always. Whenever you guys want me on, just hit me up. I'm more than down to come on for you guys. Good luck on everybody's bets and stuff. Hopefully the under 2.5 comes through for all of us in the main event, because I'm expecting all of us to think that there's going to be some violence. I know C has a bunch riding on it as well. That might end up being my big play too. I still haven't decided on it, but very skim card. I know you guys have a lot of bets, but I think that this is going to be a very, very small card on my end. Even on the untracked side of things, I don't want to have much to do with this card. Just sit back, watch how it goes. Next week seems a little bit easier to pick out some plays, but this weekend should be fun. I think it was like 7 or 8 lines on this entire card that are minus 150 or better. Which is absolutely insane, right? When you're talking about a 12-fight card. So a ton of action for the sharps out there. Want to go out there and attack those amazing lines. But should be a good event. Again, as always, you guys can follow me at MMALOTN on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And yeah, good luck to everybody on their bets.
Magic, floor is yours real quick. And you got any plugs?
Well, thank you for having me. And I don't know what to say, really. A lot of people are asking me on Twitter if I am planning on doing a podcast or anything. I am not. I did this because I like you, and this is a decent betting pod. I think most are garbage, and this is all right. And
There it
is. That is the only reason I did it.
There's the
I
heel
hope
magic.
I didn't
There's
sound
the heel
too bad.
magic.
That's the only thing, really.
All right.
And you
Thank you
know
guys.
what? I'll do the Connor card if you want, the Topuria card. I'll do that one.
Cool. We'll make sure to get Andrew in on that one as well too. He's a big Connor guy.
Yeah,
I actually think
my guy.
he's going to that card too. I think so.
Of course
That'd be
he
great.
is.
So thank you guys for stopping in again. We got Luke at SWR_betting, myself, Lags_Pepper, Locke, MALOTN on Twitter, Magic M_MMA, and see wherever he's at right now at C Hansen 10.
He's fishing. He went fishing.
Thank you guys. We'll see you guys next week.